What is up, everybody? Joe Everest, Ozark Fence for Ask a Fence Guy Friday. It's been a little while since we've done Ask a Fence Guy Friday. The world in general has been a little bit crazy over the past several months. But with me today is my sister, Sarah.
Hi, everybody.
So, Sarah, what do you do at Ozark Fence?
So I handle our residential division. So that goes from all the way from the estimate process through project completion as well.
Okay.
Act as a project manager and more than anything, just support our customers any way we can.
Yeah. So you're the single point of contact for all of our residential projects.
Absolutely.
All right. What's your title?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I like to say it's a CEO.
Okay. Well, all right. But what's that? But let's expand on that because it's not the CEO,
so
right?
So technically, it's a customer experience officer.
Customer experience officer, because that's really what we want to focus on.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my number one priority, making sure everyone, every customer's experience is spectacular.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So, and I think that does a good job of encompassing all of what you do, because it's not just the initial consultation, and it's not just the production or the operations, and it's not just the follow through. It's really the entire client experience.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Very good. Charles, let's see it. Hey guys, this is the first time we're using this software, so let's see if this works. We're gonna click on this. There we go. Yeah, Charles says, "Welcome back."
Hi, Charles.
Thank you, Charles. Good to see you, buddy. All right. So we're using a new streaming software that allows us to do some really neat things. One, obviously, tells you who we are. That's pretty slick. But then also, when we click on a comment, it brings it up front and it lets everyone see the comment and our response to it. So drop your comments below. We'll go ahead and bring those up as they're applicable. Really, if you guys have been with us before on Ask a Fence Guy Friday, really what we do is it's a big Q&A session. So we just answer whatever questions pop up. Or, if we have a question that's come up a lot recently, we use this chance to kind of address it. All right, here's another one. Taylor says, both kids are saying hi. Hello, kiddos.
Jackson, hi, Macy.
Yeah, both the kiddos. So that's a handful. So, hey, kiddos. And Taylor, I hope you're staying sane and don't lock them in the bedroom. So, all right. No, she would never do that. Anyway, but we have a huge announcement. Right. We that's what we put in the title. Huge announcement. So here's a huge announcement. So in all the previous episodes, this has been Ask a Fence Guy Friday. But it wouldn't make sense, or it wouldn't make as much sense for me to be the only one that's talking to you guys, interacting, because as we said, Sarah's really our single point of contact for residential projects, which a lot of the folks we interacted with here on Facebook and on YouTube are residential. There we go. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulties. But yeah, so Sarah's actually going to be the one that you would be asking questions to in real life. So day to day. So we're now rebranding this from Ask a Fence Guy Friday to Ask a Fence Gal Friday. Moving forward.
All right, it's about time.
So I'll still be around. So this will be more like an interview show where I'll ask Sarah questions that I've been hearing. Of course, give Sarah a chance to talk about questions that she's been hearing and go from there. But the star of the show is now my little sister, Sarah.
All right. I like that.
Not so little. Fun fact, that used to be her nickname, though.
What, Little Sarah?
Little Sarah.
Yeah.
So Little Sarah's grown up, though. All right. So Sarah, where should we start? Let's do this. Question we've been getting a lot lately, and we've done a few videos on it, is it revolves around the cost of fence. Obviously our privacy fence specifically has gotten more expensive over, say, the last 6 or 8 months. Why don't we talk about that first? So how about a general overall view of the lumber industry and what we've been seeing, and then get a little bit more specific into how, what our response has been.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really a two-part. It's definitely your supply and your demand, but when you look at the supply side of it, the lumber industry as a whole was hit pretty hard during everything. So we saw a lot of shutdowns even in the field where they're milling the trees. So there was a lack of supply there, and then you also had shutdowns where they processed the trees in the mills. So you just weren't getting quite the amount of lumber out originally, just because of everything going on. But then on the other side of it, when those mills were up and running again, the demand was just insane. So when you kind of look at that too, we look at everyone's at home and, maybe summer quarantine, that sort of thing. You're having a lot more do-it-yourself projects.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
having restaurants trying to get reopened and they're doing outdoor seating.
Okay, like building patio areas.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. Restaurants that have never had a patio before, all of a sudden it was patio or you don't get to open. And so you saw a lot of people really finally had time to do those projects at home that they're always looking for.
Okay.
Maybe it be, a deck, that sort of thing. Either way, I mean, even the housing industry uses quite a bit of lumber. So once the mills were back up and running, it's just really hard to keep up with the demand that they're currently seeing. And we're still facing that issue now.
Well, and I think it's important to note too that these mills, I mean, they mill all sorts of wood products, right? So there's not, one mill that makes fence pickets.
Right.
They make also, if it's a Western red cedar mill, they make a variety of cedar products. So demand, not even necessarily now, fence demand has been up quite a bit.
Thank you.
But not only the fence demand, but it, like you said, it could also be deck demand and home building in general. Patio projects, that sort of thing. All that demand comes together and puts just a lot of stress on the lumber industry as a whole.
Absolutely. Something that we've talked a little bit about pine, and I'm sure we'll touch on that again too, but that's just another process that goes into, supplying the wood. Now you're adding a different organization that's doing the treatment process of that pine. So then you had those shutdowns as well. Sure. So that just adds one more element to it. And unfortunately, everyone's certainly doing the best they can. And I can't imagine what the mill and lumber industry as a whole is going through right now. But that's just what we've experienced on our end. And really just they're doing their best to keep up. And we're happy with, the work that we've been doing. But that's kind of why you've seen a little bit of a price increase. It's just as the demand increases, those prices unfortunately do as well.
Sure. Well, and so that's an important part that's the next thing to talk about is going to be the price of the lumber. Yeah. So supply is low. Yep. Demand is incredibly high. Yeah. So what's that done with the pricing?
Unfortunately, it's increased the pricing significantly. I was doing a little bit of research on the specific numbers, and from April to now, the lumber industry as a whole is at 80%. So it's almost double from what we were this time last year, really. Wow. I mean, when you look at that, and unfortunately, it has a trickle effect on everything that touches the lumber from here on out. Every contractor's unfortunately going to have to deal with that price increase as well.
Sure. And I'd say that's probably an average, right? So we've seen some products that have had more than an 80% increase. Yes. Specifically on the way over here, we're talking about 4x4x8 treated pine posts. Pre-pandemic, early first quarter this year, they were $7-8 a piece, thereabouts. Now you priced them yesterday. What's the price of a 4x4x8 treated pine post?
$18.77.
$18.77. That's crazy. And same thing goes for the 2x4x8. So I was looking into this yesterday. 2x4x8 treated pine pre-pandemic, they were $250, $275 a piece. So now they're, I think it's $815, $817 a piece. Yeah, that a bit more than 80%.
Just a little bit, yeah.
So that kind of puts us on the tough spot, though, right? Is then all of a sudden treated pine costs in the ballpark of what cedar costs.
Yeah.
So what is our response been to that?
So at this time, we've decided to move away from the pine product as a whole, just because when prices are that close, the quality of the cedar is going to be significantly more. Sure. So it just, at the end of the day, we want to build a fence that both the customer and ourselves can be proud of. And we're not necessarily seeing that with the pine right now. And that doesn't mean that, that's off the table forever. But right now, we've predominantly been doing just steel posts. That's another big one that we can kind of talk about here in a second. Sure. But all of our wood products are cedar now. So our 2x4s, so the runners that go across, those are cedar as well. So we've got cedar pickets, cedar 2x4s, and our steel posts. And I mean, to touch on that a little bit too, that's roughly the price of a 4x4 is roughly the same price as that Postmaster steel post now. And that's that blows my mind a little bit. But, you know, when we look at the flip side of it, it's kind of good in a way because now we're able to give a customer a lifetime warranty on a post that we weren't able to do with the wood. So
yeah,
it's kind of a blessing in disguise in that sense. So we're seeing when we're not able to give that extra, you know, additional option, we are seeing an increase in the quality of the product that we're putting up, which is nice.
Sure.
It's always great.
Increase in value that we're providing.
Yes,
is
absolutely.
is
That's a good way to put it.
our main goal when we're installing fence is maximize the value to the client.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really any business that should be their primary goal is get as much value to the paying client as possible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you and I have had, gosh, how many conversations about this? Quite a few. You know, what do we do? So we've offered treated pine in the past as an economic or a cost efficient alternative, a lesser expensive alternative to cedar.
Absolutely.
But when they're relatively the same price, it doesn't really make sense. If we're charging roughly what we would charge for a cedar fence, then the value really isn't there, right? Because we know now that's one thing to touch on too is even when we're talking about pricing, in the past we've purchased a number one grade treated pine products, number one 2x4s and pickets. So those, when we're talking about pricing availability, we're talking about a number two product. The number one pine, treated pine, we haven't seen in stock 6 months at least, probably. So the price is roughly comparable to cedar, and we're not even talking about number one pine. We're talking about number two pine, which there's a significant difference between the two.
Yeah.
So ultimately, that we kind of came to that conclusion that we offer cedar exclusively on steel post. A cedar post costs significantly more than a Postmaster Steel Plus or a Postmaster Plus Steel Post.
Yeah.
Now I think it's important to note too when we're talking about pricing, the Postmaster Steel Post, we get a discount on those simply because we bring them in by the truckload. So if you're out in the retail market looking at it, the retail price of a 4x4x8 post, $18 thereabouts. Retail price of a Postmaster Plus it varies anywhere $28 to $32 a post. So in the retail market, it's not as close as when we're talking about bulk purchasing, but still, when it's $18 compared to $28, if it's only $10 more for a steel post that we know is going to have a lifetime warranty against rust and corrosion, namely, but also wind loads of in excess of 70 miles an hour,
which is incredible.
yeah, phenomenal. And it's not going to warp and twist.
No.
You know, we know it's not going to check. It's not going to have cracks in it. So, and it hides the post.
I was going to say, you're able to cover it, which is really nice. It's a unique steel post. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, personally, it's a better look.
It is.
You know,
Absolutely.
you get to hide the post. You don't see a post breaking up the line of fence every 8 feet.
Yes.
Let's do this. We've got some questions piling up and some comments. So, Shalane Andrews, do we know Shalane?
Oh, boy, do we. Speaking of little Sarah nicknames, I believe she's the one that gifted that one.
I was going to say, I think it came from Shalane.
Yeah, I grew up riding horses, and Shalane was actually, I mean, she's one of the most influential horse people in my life for sure. But there were 3 Sarahs, and I was the smallest. So I got little Sarah.
Little Sarah. L-I-L.
Hello, Shalane. Yes.
Is Lil. Hello, Shalane. So, yeah, Shalane's right. Lumber prices have been absolutely insane. Heather Foster. Do we know Heather?
We do.
I love Heather's picture here. Wow. Good morning, Heather, or afternoon. Yeah, she's great at doing makeup, amongst other things. I mean,
she's basically good at everything she touches.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So she said, literally, all we did during quarantine was work on refinishing our basement and adding garden beds.
Yep.
So again, quarantine projects.
Yeah.
Home improvement projects.
The biggest thing that I've seen is you have a lot of times there are multiple decision makers, and you're both home and able to sit down and kind of come up with a game plan on those home improvement projects that you've been putting off for so long.
That makes sense.
And now all of a sudden you've got maybe an hour extra from drive time, and what do you know? You got projects to do.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, because a lot of times our projects at my particular house get put off simply because I don't see my wife. I see my wife for a few hours in the evening, and what it feels like. But if you're both home all day, you get to make a lot of decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Chad Johnson, I know a lot of fence builders in my area switched to Japanese cedar for availability. Sure is pretty when stained. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chad. So Japanese cedar, full transparency, we use Japanese cedar on our 2x4 and they look
Beautiful.
incredible. I'm telling you, if you took a Japanese cedar 2x4 and put it on a table with a Western red cedar and didn't tell me the difference, I probably couldn't pick the two out.
No.
I know that because we did that.
I think it's worth mentioning too that that's what we do our horizontal fencing in.
Yeah.
Those 2x4s, and we're also able to pre-stain them too. And you're exactly right, Chad. The color on them is beautiful. It really just helps accentuate the characteristic of each board. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it really takes the stain super well. So that's a good point. Yeah. So when we're doing the horizontal and we're still using these Postmaster Plus posts, we're using the Japanese cedar 2x4s on those, and man, they look nice.
Yes.
If we do say so ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Go to our website and take a look for yourself.
Yeah. Don't let us be the only judge. You can check it out for yourself as well. So, Chad, let's do this. If you're still with us, why don't you post in the comments below what area you're from that you guys are seeing Japanese cedar there. All right. Let's see. Ryan Sloop, good work for the industry, guys. Fence has so much room for improvement. Props to y'all for pushing it forward.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing is within any industry, there's always a need for education.
Yeah.
Right. And we can only do so many one-on-one, face-to-face interactions, education moments with our clients. So this is a really good way for us to try to reach more people at once. You know, right now, looks like there's about 25 people between Facebook and YouTube at the moment. And then there'll be more that watch the replay. So that's absolutely our hope with this is that we're able to ask questions in a timely manner or answer questions in a timely manner and try to get that education out to as many people as possible.
I think it's also worth noting too that we get just as much from this as we hope our audience does too. You know, we love hearing the new ideas and, you know, hearing these questions that make us realize, you know what, maybe that's a question we should answer at the forefront for every new customer. And so it's really helpful, and we definitely appreciate you guys tuning in and asking the questions. So need to be answered.
Yeah, because it's when you work in fence long enough, you just automatically know the answer, right? So it just becomes a natural step in the process. You don't really think about explaining it until someone says, hey, wait a minute, you know, what about X? What about Y? You go, oh, you know what? Yeah, that does make sense. I should answer that.
True. Yep.
So it's kind of a good way. I liken it to, you know, a lot of times I wander around with blinders on. I'm focused on what I'm focused on. And sometimes I need some of these guys and gals to take my attention and be like, hey, you need to talk about this.
Yeah.
We need your attention here. So this is a great point for that too. A great time for that too. Ryan, thank you. Appreciate you. Dan Blanc. I apologize now. Dan. He's a fence king.
Oh, I like that.
We got Fence King with us today. What extents have you gone to get lumber, no matter the price? I know we have had to make extraordinary changes and join forces with our fence companies to go up our buying power. Fence King. Yeah, so we're bringing lumber in by the truckload. So we actually had another truckload of Western red cedar pickets show up yesterday, and we didn't necessarily need them. No. You know, we had quite a bit of lumber, but the thing is, right now, when a supplier calls you and says, hey, I have a truckload of cedar, would you like it? The answer is yes. Comma, what's it cost? Like, the answer is always yes, I do. But what's it cost? So, but for example, our cedar pickets went up, was it 13% on this load? So, yeah, you take it. I wouldn't say no matter the cost. If they said it's, you know, these things are $1,000 a piece, well, you can probably hold on to them for a little while. But yeah, so as long as the cost is reasonable, you bring them in because it could be a lost opportunity if you don't.
Absolutely. And I mean, we do look at the sourcing and we look at that. Our biggest thing is quality. So certainly could we find lumber for, you know, a sliver less? Absolutely.
Maybe.
But yeah, probably. But would the quality be there?
No.
Likely not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, those two are tied together right now. And so to Joe's point, you know, bringing in the truckloads means that we're able to lock in that pricing for 30 days for all of the new bids that we put out.
Sure.
And that's important to us because it's not necessarily fair to our customers to get an increase in price when they've locked in one as well.
Well, and we can be more comfortable doing that when we have a 30-day supply of the material.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's
definitely.
kind of how the 30-day guarantee works. But yeah, so the pickets, let's talk about the pickets for a second. We use Alta lumber. Here, I'll take Dan down. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your comment. So we use Alta lumber for our pickets, and they cost a little bit more than other pickets in the industry, but they come with a 15-year warranty.
Yes.
So that's there's Japanese cedar pickets available, and we could probably buy them, and they'd be a little bit less expensive. Problem is they don't have a warranty. We got into a batch of Japanese cedar. It's been years ago. That were really inconsistently milled. So the top would be 6 inch, the bottom would be 5.5, and the pigs just weren't square. And when you don't have a warranty, when you buy them as is, you're stuck with them. Yeah, you get to have them. So we pay a little bit more for the lumber, but we buy from a trusted name in the lumber industry, Alta, and we get the 15-year warranty. Our clients end up getting the 15-year warranty on the lumber. So
Absolutely.
again, all this rolls back to providing value.
Yeah.
Right. So we could probably provide a little bit cheaper product to the end consumer that they probably wouldn't know up front was any different, but we would know, in our minds what the value was.
Yes.
That we cut a few corners, that we got a little bit less expensive material, that they weren't getting warranty on their pickets, that sort of thing. But ultimately, the value just wouldn't be there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the number one thing, is making sure not only that you have a happy customer at the end, but that you have a long-term happy customer. And, you're part of, every time we get an acceptance, I send out an email that just says like, hey, welcome to the family. And that's what you are. And, you're part of our family, and no one wants an upset aunt or uncle, right? So that's how I look at, long-term, we want to make sure our customers are happy with their fence forever.
Well, yeah, so we're a third-generation fence business. So our dad had it before we did. His dad had it before he did. And when you're a generational fence company, you start thinking in terms of generations, right? So the fence we install now, the experience we give our client now, could have rippling impacts for generations.
Yeah.
So that's, again, by providing the most value possible, we ensure that we're having a great impact that hopefully will last for generations.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to the comments. Ken Johnson, looks like some lumber prices dropped this week. Hopefully we'll continue to see a downward trend. I hope so.
I know.
The cedar pickets we got in this week were not.
We did not get a
we didn't see
decrease
a
on those.
downward trend there. But I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, ultimately, as a fence company, we want to build fence.
Yeah.
So lower cost of materials means a lower cost of fence, and probably equates to building more fence.
Definitely.
So I would love to see a lower cost of cedar.
You and me both.
All right. Chad Johnson is in Wichita, Kansas. That's basically our neighbor.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
How's it going, Chad? It's good to hear from you. So that was a recall. That was a recall in here that Chad said a lot of the fence builders in his area in Wichita switch to Japanese cedar. So very good, Chad. Hey, Chad, let me ask you. So are the steel posts, whether they're Postmaster or Lifetime, are they big in your area? And I ask this because I was talking to our supplier, Master Halco, and Postmaster posts are incredibly popular here, just because people have really understood the value and have picked up on that. In Kansas City, where this particular supplier is, no one uses Postmaster. Maybe not no one. That's probably not fair. But very few people use them. They still use the treated pine, which blows my mind when they're roughly the same price. So anyway, Chad, I'd love to hear from you on the Wichita market, on if you guys are big on the steel post or not. Michael. He says it's Joe. What's up, buddy?
He also wants to see your boots, it looks like.
See them boots. No, they're not orange. No, they're just regular boots. I'm not going to hike them up here. They're just regular boots. No, so Michael is our rep for Stainless Steel Experts. So he's our stain rep.
He hangs out with Caleb then.
He does. He hangs around with Caleb.
Okay.
Yep, you bet. So I saw them. Stainless Steel Experts had me out 4 weeks ago to talk at their universities, where I met Michael in person, and had some pretty fancy boots on. I'm not gonna lie, they were think they're Asian carp maybe or something like that. So
okay.
I'm here to tell you they were a birthday present like 4 years ago, but they still look fancy. So that's what Michael's getting at with that comment.
All right.
They're just regular Ariat boots.
Ariat boots.
Yeah, they're regular Ariats today.
Yep.
But all right, so Chad replied back. Steel posts are big in Wichita. If you get outside the city, it's mostly 4x4s. So
Okay.
Wichita's coming on board with steel posts, which I think you're going to see this more and more. If you guys are watching in a market that steel posts aren't as prevalent in, I would absolutely recommend trying to bring them into the market. If you're a fence company or if you're a client requesting them, if the fence company has an account with any of the large suppliers, they have access to these steel posts.
Yes.
Master Halco sells the Postmaster post. They hold the patent on that, and it's one that we tend to use. There's also the Lifetime post,
Okay.
which is similar. There's a lot of these suppliers kind of have their own versions of the Postmaster Plus post. So I would recommend Postmaster Plus. It's the original. It's kind of the one that a lot of other companies are using for inspiration.
Yeah.
I prefer the original.
Yeah.
We've used Postmaster regular post for years, and then the Plus came out just recently. Anyway, yep, we like the steel post. So, all right, so we talked about steel. We talked about lumber.
Yep.
The shortage. We talked about treated pine shortage, and was led into cedar. What else are we going to talk about?
Oh, let's see. Trying to think of probably the most asked question I get. Let's talk about the quote tool a little bit.
Yeah.
So on our website, we have a quote tool that you're able to go to pull up your house and actually draw on your fence. And the biggest question I get is how accurate is that?
Yeah.
And I get it a lot, which is understandable.
Right.
This
So,
is a new technology.
And I'll pause. When you're drawing the fence, you're drawing it on a satellite image.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
So I understand the hesitation
Yeah.
that a satellite in outer space took a picture of your house. How accurate is it going to be? I understand the question. I absolutely do.
I would say, so when I actually go on site prior to installation and I do the measurements, mostly for, materials, that sort of thing, it's within 5 feet, I would say 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more. That's a conservative number.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I think that's accurate. So we looked at all of 2019 and the quote tools versus the actuals after we built the projects. And I think the difference was plus or minus 4.5 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's awesome.
So let that sink in with technology-wise. That a satellite flying through outer space took a picture of your yard and it's accurate within 4.5 feet.
Yeah.
And sometimes that 4.5 feet is going to be utilities. We had to move the fence for utilities, or so the margin of error probably could be a little bit lower.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so in all of 2019 we saw 4.5 feet, and you said this year you're seeing roughly 5 foot or less.
Yeah, but a lot of that, to your point, is maybe when we're out there, we're looking at a gutter and we're going, it makes more sense to kind of expand that sort of thing.
Or a window. That's what I look for is,
Yep.
if there's a window close to the back corner, where does that window go?
Yes.
Is it a bedroom? Well, we should probably enclose it in the backyard. Yep. Or if it's a basement window, getting that thing enclosed too.
Absolutely.
So, things you wouldn't normally see on the quote tool. Mm-hmm. Guys, the quote tool has been incredible. It allows our clients to get ballpark pricing within 5 minutes. You think that's about the time it takes to get through the quote tool?
Yeah.
5 minutes or so.
Yeah. And I would say that's even with making a couple changes, maybe playing around with the type of fence that you want.
Yep. Trying to mess with lengths of, that's another thing you can do too, is you can do multiple lengths of the post or of the fence. So you could say, hey, here's the length of my backyard as, quote 1, and here's the sides for quote 2.
Yeah.
If you're just thinking about the back fence, but maybe replacing up the sides.
The other one I get a lot of is dog runs. People are like, well, maybe it makes sense when I have visitors in my backyard, there's another place for the dogs to go. And so, there's kind of a different line. We built a couple of those this year that really were great ideas, something I wouldn't have thought of for myself. And it turned out really cool.
Are kids running a thing? Kids runs a thing?
I don't know. Taylor, you tell us.
Taylor, what do you think? Maybe there's a new market here for kids runs. If I'm out in the backyard grilling up on the patio, maybe just put the kids out in the kids run?
No, I don't think that's going to work.
If you knew my son, the fence would not contain him. He would run right through it. Kool-Aid Man style.
But, oh, yeah.
All right, let's see where we're at. Oh, no. Michael.
Not very nice, Michael.
That's just because he hasn't met you. That's just because he hasn't met you.
I'm gonna keep
That's
that
all.
in mind with those pre-stain estimates coming
Michael, what are you doing? Take that off where she sees it too. All right.
in.
All right. So,
Taylor does approve the kid run. By the way,
I got to click on them and then we talk
so
about
sorry.
it and then I'll.
Got it.
Okay. So Dan, the Fence King, says we just started with Postmaster and love them, trying to convince the customers of the advantages when we're in a wood post market.
Yeah.
I understand.
We were there.
Yeah. 5, 6, 10 years ago, we were in a predominantly wood market, and the steel posts that were being used were the round steel.
Yes, yeah, with brackets and completely visible on the inside of the fence.
Oh, highly visible.
Yeah, I would go as far as to say an eyesore.
Yeah, they stick out. Even if you used like a vinyl coated black post, you would still end up seeing it quite a bit. Yeah, so we've been through that, going from an entirely wood market. I mean, the pricing right now obviously helps with that conversation. When treated pine costs, in the same ballpark as steel, but steel lasts longer. It's got a warranty, where a treated pine post typically doesn't have a warranty at all. Yeah. It tends to become an easier conversation, but they are more expensive. I mean, even if they're in the same ballpark, they're still more expensive. But again, wrapping this whole thing back around, it's about value.
It is. Absolutely.
Right? So, and let's talk about for a minute that sometimes there's projects that we're just not a good fit for. Yep. We prefer to use cedar materials on steel posts because we're thinking generationally, and maybe this particular project doesn't need that value. Yeah. Maybe it's a house that's getting ready to sell. Maybe it's a fix and flip type of situation where, a steel post on a cedar fence maybe doesn't make sense to that investor, and that's fine. We can't build all the fence in Springfield. No. And no one can. So we don't have to be the best fit for every project. But the projects that do decide that we're a good fit for them, we try to bring them maximum value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Dan, for sticking around with us. All right. So Taylor says, yes, please, to the kids run.
Yeah. Let's build it. Match that pretty new mahogany fence. Right.
We just did. After 2 years of being in this house, we finally replaced our fence.
Yes.
Taylor was a champ and waited it out. She has lots of patience with me in all things, really. Yeah. And she's more of a saint than anything. But yeah, so we could do a pre-stained kids run in mahogany.
Yeah, I like it.
Good grief.
I like that kind of positivity, Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you for your support. Come on now. Good grief. All right, moving on.
All right. What about you? What kind of questions do you hear from? Because I mean, as everyone knows, you have your own YouTube channel with that sort of thing. So you've got lots of comments that come in. Are there any comments from maybe not even just locally, but in the U.S. that continue to come up?
One thing that's kind of neat to see, when we're talking to people from all over the country, and there's some people in other countries as well. We have some in a live broadcast we did on my personal YouTube channel. We had folks from Europe. We had some Europeans there, and we've had comments from folks from New Zealand and Australia. So what I'm thinking is, I'll just leave you here to hold down the fort, and I need to go do a tour to see all my YouTube subscribers.
A YouTube tour.
Yeah, YouTube tour. We'll see the Canadians in the summer. Really beautiful in the summer. And then winter, we'll just go. I mean, maybe go to Australia and New Zealand. I mean, they're fans too, Sarah. We got to see them.
I'm pretty sure their seasons are a little switched.
Yeah. So winter here, summer there.
Oh, okay.
Is that how that works?
I don't know. Actually, I say that. I know that I know their school schedules are, because whenever we go on vacation, they're going on like a winter break.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, so that could work. That could work if it's winter here, summer
There's
there.
cobras and stuff in Australia, so have at it.
All right. Anyway, so what my main thing when we're talking about getting all this feedback is to see how vastly the preference and what people in the style and design of fence that people like to see.
Yeah.
So, we had one out, and it's been a little while ago, that talked about the height of fence. Talked about 6 foot versus 8 foot. Here in Springfield, we can't have anything above 6. Well, you can, but there's restrictions. Mm-hmm. But in other markets that you see 8 foot predominantly. So say like the Dallas metro market, 8 foot's the standard.
Really?
8-foot privacy fence. Yeah. So
Okay.
when I was in Nashville, there at the St. Still Experts, when they were at their university, I was talking to some guys from the Dallas market, and all of what they do is 8 foot tall.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they do 6 and 4 foot occasionally, but
Well, sure.
8 foot's the standard there. And when we talk about, so here when we finish a fence and the client doesn't have a preference, we face the finish side, the smooth side out, so it faces the neighbors. And we talk about that in our videos, and we get some very opinionated comments that is the wrong way to do it.
Oh.
And the finish side should face the neighbor or should face the customer. And by showing the customer the structure, that we are actually not doing it right.
Oh, like a disservice to our customers.
Disservice to the customers. So, and that just goes to say that you see different styles, you see different norms, standards in other areas.
That's true.
It's interesting to see. It's very interesting to see.
Oh, Anita.
Anita's with us. Anita says,
Hi,
love
Anita.
to see and hear you guys. Hi, Anita.
Oh, so
Very
see,
good to see you here.
we even have Alaskan fans.
We have Alaskan fans. I
All
tell
right.
you what.
Now that's the
No.
one I'd like to go visit.
No, Sarah, I can tell you with 100% certainty that when it's winter here, it's winter there. I know that for a fact.
I think it's winter there pretty much
all the time.
all the time.
No. There's
Bear
like
country.
there is at least 2 weeks
Okay.
where it's beautiful. I'd
Then
say
I think we should go in those 2 weeks.
those 2 weeks. We have a very small
Ozark
window to
Fence,
come see you, Anita.
Alaska. I like
I'm.
that.
You know what? I got
I
jealous.
like that.
So Dad and Granddad went to Alaska. Gosh, it's been years ago to go fishing, and I want to go.
Yeah.
The pictures that we still have up in our office of these fish that are just like they're so big they look prehistoric.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got halibut that get the size of me, you know,
Yeah.
and it's crazy, but it's so beautiful. All their photos are beautiful, and they had a good time. So anytime you're in the area, come by and see those photos too.
Yeah,
Dad's
we got him
very
there in the
proud.
office.
Very
He'll tell you all about the fish.
Yes.
He'll really tell you about the whole trip. All you have to say is that's a good looking fish, and then buckle up.
Yeah.
Because you'll hear stories about the whole trip.
Do not come on your lunch break.
No, not if you have anywhere to be. We say that in jest because he's probably watching. We're just kidding.
We love you.
We're just kidding.
Don't
Probably-
lock the office.
I was gonna say he's probably locked the office. Like, all right, I'm out of here, guys. Pull down to fort.
But okay, so you did bring up the pretty side in versus out. That's
Yeah.
another question I get a lot of.
Oh, okay.
And around here, the best way I can explain to the customers is it's personal preference.
Sure. Yeah.
Now the hard part
Sometimes.
is sometimes unless there's an HOA involved.
Exactly. Yep.
Which that kind of adds another layer onto our projects. But a lot of times what's hard is when you are going in with a neighbor on a line fence.
Sure.
And then it becomes, wait a minute, who gets the pretty side? But
sure.
the cool thing is with having those cedar 2x4s and the steel posts is there's really not an ugly side of a cedar fence.
No.
You know, it
No.
shows its structure, but
Sure.
it's not as bad.
And you see the cover picket, you see the cover board, but so it's not nearly as bad as what you'd see on a standard fence.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the thing. So HOAs sometimes have restrictions on which way it can face.
Yep.
Sometimes municipalities do. We've done that. We've been in municipalities before where they were very strict about which side the fence faces,
Okay. Yeah.
which can get complicated if you have. So if 2 of your neighbors have already installed their fence and they installed the smooth side towards you, but you're going to finish out your backyard, your backline of fence. What do you do? Typically, if it's an unrestricted area, I would face it in towards me.
Sure.
If it's me, make the backyard look complete. But sometimes that's not an option.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's worth mentioning too, that it's always a good idea to have a conversation with your neighbors prior to that, because you never know, what they're thinking and they're feeling. And you certainly, we build the fence and we leave and we don't have to live with your neighbors, but you unfortunately do. So that's a lot of times
fortunately,
yeah. Hopefully
there's good neighbors out there.
Yeah, I have great neighbors. But that's something worth mentioning too. Sometimes it's always a good idea to, talk to your neighbors prior to building, just out of, a respect thing. But sometimes they may even split the lines with you. So we get that a lot, which is really great.
Absolutely. All right. Blake Wigson's with us.
All right.
Sarah, you're looking great. Joe.
Thanks, Blake.
Why so many dots in between Joe,
that was a
your
big
2?
hesitation.
Like, Joe, you're 2. Like, that's how I read that.
Yeah.
Like, if he meant it, there would be no periods.
Yeah.
You'd be like, Joe, you look great too.
I'd be offended. I'm not, because you said I look great. So
No, of
thank
course
you.
you're not.
But,
You're getting
but
the majority of
Blake
the compliments in this.
Blake would also know a lot about lumber pricing. He's building that new
Yeah.
house. It's beautiful. Looks
Well,
awesome.
So here's the thing: is I think I saw this on Blake's. I live vicariously through Blake's
do
Facebook a
too.
lot of times, and I think he had mentioned on there that the majority of his lumber was bought
That's
pre-pandemic,
awesome.
or at least in the early stages, pre-price increases.
Increase, yeah.
Yeah,
Good looking out.
yeah, but maybe not. So if
Yeah.
that's not the case, Blake, let us know.
Yeah.
But I think he got in ahead of the wire.
Yeah.
So Bethany's got a good comment. It's always the neighbors.
Bethany is our customer service rock star.
That's right.
So
That's right.
if you answer or if you call us, you typically get either Bethany or Lori. Both of them are phenomenal.
Yep.
But Bethany definitely makes sure our office runs smooth.
And if you've ever bought fence material from us,
Yeah,
Bethany's the one that
She's your girl.
takes care of you.
Yeah.
She's a rock star is the right word. Rock star is the right
She's
word.
awesome.
So, but when she says it's always the neighbors, so my granddad always had this joke. He said there's 3 things that keep a fence company in business. There's kids, there's pets, and there's bad neighbors.
Yep. Yeah.
We do not a lot of it, but we do a fair amount of fencing as a result of neighbors.
That's true. Yeah.
Whether it's maybe an eyesore that's in the backyard, or the yard's not kept in the way that the client would like to see it, or sometimes it's boundary disputes.
Yeah. We ran into a couple issues of that here lately. It's nice though that we do partner with a surveyor here in Springfield too, that's able to mark property corners. That helps us quite a bit.
Well, and we talked about that in one of our recent YouTube videos on the Joe Everest page, is the importance of a survey.
Yeah.
For that exact reason of if there is ever a boundary dispute, you've got a survey. We did one, gosh, this has been 10, 12 years ago. We did a chain link fence right down someone's driveway. It was in the older part of Springfield, and this was pre-driveways. So it was street parking.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And, years and years, previous owners ago, one neighbor told the other that he could, of course, bring a driveway to his house.
Sure.
Well, those neighbors have moved away, and the new neighbors came in. They did not get along nearly as well. And so we put a chain link fence right down the driveway.
So they probably don't drink coffee together in the mornings.
I doubt they say hello. I doubt they say hello. They probably say things, but it's probably not hello.
Well, okay, we talked a lot about bad neighbors, but I've also had quite a few in the last year that we've put maybe gates in existing fences for neighbors.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Or we also had one that was 6 foot tall that they wanted to go down to 4 foot tall so that they could talk to their neighbors over the fence.
Okay, so you can see them across the fence.
Yeah, they still want a little bit of privacy if they're sitting on their patio, but they really had a good relationship. So not to say all neighbors are bad.
No. It's just those are the stories that stick out in your mind.
Yes, always.
Those are the ones.
Yes.
And there's been a few this year.
Yeah.
There's been a few this year.
Yeah, which it's been stressful on everyone. So it's
everyone's living a stressful life right now. Yeah, that's absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've talked about the quote tool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. So it's October. We're coming into fall.
Yeah.
One of the questions we start getting a lot this time of year is, well, when do you guys start building fence again? Is it too late to get my fence this year? When can I get it for next year?
Well, lucky for you, we build fence all year round. So unless it's ice, that sort of thing, we really, our machines work and our guys want to work. We all do.
Yeah.
So people need fences year round, and we're able to install them year round too.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I mean, there might be some trades or professions that maybe aren't able to work in the winter. And I mean, fencing could be one of those trades if we were in a far northern climate, something like that.
Yeah.
They usually turn to maybe holiday lights or snow removal, something like that in the winter. But no, luckily our climate, we haven't had a significant winter event in years. And I mean a winter event, knock on wood. But trending, historically trending in the last several years, we've worked all through the summer. Or all through the summer. We definitely work all through the summer, but also through the winter.
Last year, I think we only had a couple days where we weren't building fence.
Yeah.
Which, we do try to set our posts Monday, Tuesday, so we can finish on Thursday, Friday, and that leaves Wednesday as a flex day. So if it ices on Monday and we can set those posts, a day later, we do.
Sure.
Which is nice.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Leaving a flex day in the middle of the week is always nice.
Yes.
For weather or for just, scheduling delays. Sometimes we'll get on site on a Monday and the project's just not ready right then. Something's come up, and it's nice having flex days. Or if we see a lot of rain coming in towards the end of the week,
that's true. Yeah,
we can try to run projects ahead.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we build fence all winter with a caveat that Sarah said that for ice.
Yes.
Well, I usually tell folks, our team members and our clients is watch the Springfield Public Schools. If they cancel school for ice, we're going to be closed. If they don't want their school buses on a road, I don't want my trucks and trailers on a road. If it's that dangerous, that we're just not going to chance it. Now, I say that not every school snow day we take off.
That's true.
Some of them are for other reasons, but predominantly ice is the one thing that messes our schedule up a little bit.
Yeah, and that is something that we look at, in advance as well, and kind of give our customers that heads up too. And I can't speak for Joe, but I know even on those wintry days, I'm still working, just maybe from home instead of in the office. But
what do you mean you can't speak for Joe?
I mean, I don't know, but maybe if you had that kid run, you could throw him in there.
I'm not putting him in the kid run in the winter. I'm not going to do that. Okay. That's a bad look. Right. That's probably not a great idea.
Yeah, that's the bad look for sure. But yeah, we do build it year round, and it's really not as, I think, bad as people kind of think too. No. As far as conditions and stuff like that.
Yeah, and sometimes now we're talking late January, February, the ground starts getting pretty frozen. So what we do in that instance is we replace our dirt digging augers for rock digging augers.
Yep.
So if the auger's built to chew through rock, it'll probably chew through frozen ground too.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
All right. Well, so we talked about what time of year. Talk about the lumber. Yeah. See, he runs the office even on snow days. That's right.
To the office.
That's right. I don't
You
run.
run?
I don't run. No,
Wow.
I do not run.
I gotta do that 10K.
I get it. I'm not doing a 10K. I will not do it. No, but I do driving my truck.
That is true. Yeah.
Well, because even on snow days, our phones ring.
That's true.
Yeah. And my drive into work's not crazy. We live in Republic, so it's a little bit of a drive, but the roads are really good. I mean, it's main roads almost all the way in, and sometimes our guys want to come in.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely true.
If we've got some work to do in the shop, if we're making gates or doing some sort of fabrication, and guys will come in and try, if they feel comfortable with it, to try to make some hours and that sort of thing. So I like to come in and nothing else, answer the phones.
Yeah.
But maybe not build fence.
Yeah.
Probably don't put our trucks on the road.
No, just because cars can drive on it doesn't necessarily mean the trailer should either.
Well, that's it. So because our typical rigs are 1-ton dually truck pulling a 20-foot flatbed trailer, and sometimes that setup's tricky to get around in the neighborhood in the best conditions.
Yes, absolutely.
Much less if it's slick at all. And I mean, one thing to think about too is there's always other drivers on the road too.
Yep.
How often have you seen a car slide off in a ditch or slide through an intersection, that sort of thing? I would hate to put our team members in a position that that they wouldn't want to be in.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we do work through the winter, but not when it's icy.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
All right. So Sarah, maybe we start wrapping this thing up. Maybe do last call. If you guys are here and you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And
words.
That's not 100% true. No, it's not.
Just a little truth.
Maybe there's a little bit there. But no, so last call, guys. If you guys have fencing related questions or Ozark fence related questions, drop them in the comments below. Let's do this. So Sarah, if someone's watching either live or the replay and they want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you're always welcome to call our office. Number is 417-862-7803. Or the best way to get a hold of me is just email. It's Sarah with an H, like it says on there. So sarah@ozfence.com.
Yep.
And normally pretty quick to respond on there. Other than that, just reach out anyway. Facebook, by all means.
Yeah, we'll watch this as the weeks go on, and we'll watch for additional questions. And so one thing too is this is going to be a regular thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to make this a regular thing on Fridays, so where we come Friday at noon and come hang out with you guys and answer any questions you guys have. Maybe bring up subjects that are currently, relevant, such as lumber availability and pricing.
Yes.
If anyone needs to reach out to me, it'd be joe@ozfence.com. Of course, same phone number, 417-862-7803. Tell Bethany she's doing a great job.
Yeah, she's great.
So, all right. Okay, so Taylor said she was joking. Good to know. TJ wants to know, do we do barbed wire fencing?
No, but TJ does, for
Yeah.
anybody that's reading this. So TJ here is my boyfriend, and we've been putting up barbed wire fence at my house the past couple of weeks. And it's been a real treat. So if anyone needs a post hole driver, TJ's your guy.
Yeah. So, but in all seriousness, we don't install agricultural. And that's a question I get a lot is, well, why not? It's fence, so why don't you do agricultural fence? And it's really a completely different equipment setup
Absolutely.
to do agricultural.
Yep.
For residential and for commercial, it's a different equipment setup than doing agricultural. And there's a lot of guys that do agricultural fencing.
Yeah, they do a great job.
Both barbed wire, woven wire, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to try to get involved in that market and go buy a bunch of equipment when there's guys in the market that do a good job.
Yeah, and way more efficient than we tried our hand at it too.
Right,
so.
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and right now, so probably one thing to talk about too is our workload at the moment.
Yeah.
So right now, we say we're about 6 weeks out.
Yeah, we're booking into that second week there in November.
Second week in
One spot
November.
left. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So if we were to try to take on another type of fence, it would push that even further out. 6 weeks, honestly, guys, is probably closer to our comfort level. I'd like it to be about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks is kind of our sweet spot. So we're a little bit further out from that, simply because there's still quite a bit of demand for fencing. People have had projects that have been put off through the summer. Unfortunately, we talked to a lot of folks in the spring and in the summer that were hoping to see prices come down. They're going to put off their project for a little while, and we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
No. So from the spring, it would be a decent price increase from the spring. Prices would have to come down quite a bit to get back down to spring levels. Like you said, in certain products, there's been an 80% increase from the spring. And specifically, when we're talking about 4x4 treated pine posts, there's been a significant increase.
Yeah.
So those prices would have to come down quite a bit. And in all honesty, while I do see prices coming down slightly, I don't think we'll ever see, I never say never, I guess, but I don't think we'll see anytime soon pre-pandemic level pricing.
No.
Honestly, these mills are run as a business too. So if the mill's consumers, us, will buy a board at a certain price, they'll keep selling at that price. So while I would love to see prices come down, I don't know that I'd expect it in the future. Usually we start seeing prices come down for the winter. You start seeing, just materials sales slow. If anything, we're seeing the same, if not higher demand now than we did in the summer.
Yeah.
Which
absolutely.
Typically, so after late September, this is when we'd expect to see coming from 6 weeks back down to 4, maybe 3 weeks thereabouts. But I haven't seen it, and I don't know that I'd expect it. So I wouldn't expect to see a lot of decreases this winter. I wouldn't expect to see, a lot of times you start seeing specials run right about now. Not necessarily just in fence, but in building trades in general, landscaping, decks, that sort of thing, to try to fill schedules through the winter time. But I haven't seen any of that.
No, not on the manufacturing side of it or anything. If nothing, we've seen lead times grow a little bit longer on specialty items like ornamental, that sort of thing as well.
Well, let's wrap it up with that. Let's talk about lead times and material.
Okay.
So, because that question has come up a few times this week. So wood we typically keep in stock.
Yes.
For common, fencing, we keep in stock. Let's talk about lead times for like an ornamental aluminum or a steel.
Whew. Okay, so prior to everything going on, we were looking at close to probably 4 weeks to get materials in.
Yep.
Right now, they're telling us I just submitted one a few days ago, and it's 12 weeks, 3 times. Now, part of that could be it's truly an 8 week, and we might get a little earlier, but
Sure.
I haven't seen anything less than 8 weeks.
No, and even so, even when you when I'm talking to other fence companies, they're pretty much, no matter who the supplier is,
Yes.
it's all 8 to 10 week minimums, you know,
Yes.
and 10 weeks being more the norm.
Yeah.
So in this case, I'm not surprised to hear 12 weeks. Now, we don't do a lot of vinyl, but I talk to guys that do vinyl, and they're in the same boat.
Yeah.
You know, it's 8 to 10 weeks to get vinyl, as long as it's white and as long as it's standard privacy.
Yes.
So almond, not even
Good
taking
on
the
it.
orders.
Or wood grain.
Wood
That's
grain,
another one.
yeah.
I have a friend of mine, Brian. He's a contractor up in Virginia, I believe, and they're doing a big project. And he had called to ask about vinyl lead times and what we're experiencing here. And yeah, they were every bit of 12 weeks out up there as well.
That's crazy.
So selfishly, it makes me feel a little bit good that we're not the only ones in that boat.
Sure,
you know?
sure,
But
sure.
it's certainly unfortunate for the people that, you know, need their fences now for dogs and
Yeah.
you know, horses, what have you.
Yeah, if you have a need that really needs it right now and you don't have any other choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel for them. I really do. So would we keep a stock? So chain link right now is
It's pretty readily available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're still in that. If we're talking about scheduling installed, we're still probably in that 5 to 6 week ballpark.
Yep, that's a fair
Okay.
adjustment. And that includes kind of your vinyl coating as well. We're still able to get that in regularly. Really the biggest lead times I've seen are on ornamental aluminum or steel, both of those.
And so let's talk about scheduling ornamental aluminum. So if we're talking about scheduling installation, what we'll do is we'll tentatively schedule it out a few weeks after anticipated delivery.
We expect to get it in, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that way allows for a little bit of leeway if
Yeah.
the material doesn't show up right on time, but still keeps the customer kind of in our scheduling queue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also set reminders to kind of let them know where we're at in the process as well, because we're just as anxious to get that fence up as they are.
Oh,
so,
sure.
you know, we
Yeah.
definitely want everyone on the same page, and, you know, it can be just as frustrating for us as them, for sure, getting that in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, we got another one.
Oh, let's see. So Sandy says, don't care for narrow boards. What is the width of pine versus cedar boards? Also, you sometimes pre-stain boards. I've heard they need to cure before staining or sealing. Is that true?
Okay. All right. So let's take it one at a time. So the width of the pine versus cedar boards. You're going to see a little bit of both. So pine predominantly is 5.5 inch board. You can't really find much else out there. So cedar, we did do a 7.5 inch board there for a while. But with recent production in that mill yards, we're seeing really big splits. So when they are drying out, they're splitting at the top more than 6 inches. And when we go back to quality, that's just not something that, I mean, none of us are proud of. You know, it's not something that we can necessarily control, but we don't want to see a fence up there doing that either.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it reflects on us.
Yes.
Even though we didn't mill the
absolutely.
board, and it still reflects on us.
Yeah. So we were just seeing, historically, we had really great luck with them, but just for some reason, and it could just be a higher demand, they're rushing the process a little bit more as well.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think they're trying to push out as much product as they can.
Yeah. Understandable.
They're trying to supply the demand.
Yeah.
So maybe quality assurance isn't as strenuous on those boards.
Yes, I agree. So then we go to kind of the pre-stain boards. So pre-staining, you can't do it with the pine board, right? But you could with the cedar. And the reason for
the
that,
reason that Sandy had stated.
Right.
So
they need to cure. Yes, exactly. So for pine is pressure treated to try to mimic the natural compounds of cedar. So cedar naturally repels itself against warp, rot, insects, whereas pine doesn't do that. So they treat it to help protect itself.
Sure.
So Sandy's exactly right. You need below 13% moisture content level before you can stain those boards. So previously, when we were installing those, we would have to, if someone wanted them stained, we would have to wait for them to for that treatment to dry, and then we'd come back out and stain it. So we offer with the cedar now not being treated because it naturally, protects itself against those elements. We are able to pre-stain them just because it doesn't have a treatment on it like the pine does.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah. As long as that cedar board has a moisture content below 13%, we can stain it. So a lot of times, the cedar that we unloaded yesterday, we could stain it today. If typically we put the readers on, top of stack, bottom of stack, a few times in the middle of the stack, make sure, we have an average that's below 13%. But typically they're below 13% when they come off the truck.
Yes. And a lot of that also has to do with the stage that the trees are in when they're milled. So pine is milled at a younger age, than cedar. So what
Okay.
it does is that's why it's a little more squirrely.
Sure,
It's just not
sure.
quite as mature. That's another reason why they treat it as well. So just
Gotcha.
something to keep in mind. But you're absolutely right, Sandy. It does need to meet that moisture content level before you can stain it.
Yeah. And if the fence is used with treated pine components, it does need to cure before
absolutely.
being stained. So you cannot stain pre-treated boards.
No, absolutely not.
Sandy, thanks for your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, guys, we're at a little over an hour, so we probably ought to consider wrapping this thing up. Sarah, I think our first Ask a Fence Gal Friday has gone pretty well.
Yeah, this is fun. If you guys think of other questions too, that we can even address those next Friday. So send them in.
Drop it in the comments below. You can send a message directly to Facebook. It comes to both Sarah and I. You can email us, Sarah or Joe at ozfence.com. Sarah with an H.
Yeah.
We'll watch everywhere for these questions. Or tune in next week at 12 o'clock Central, and we'll be doing live again. So
awesome.
Sarah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Guys,
thank you guys
thank you
so much.
We'll see you guys later.
Yeah.